Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast.
Tonight, I need you by my side. Hold on to me and keep me in the light. And when the shadows get long and the whippoorwill song is so loud that it hurts, I need to be with you.
What's happening, Mama Woods people? We're sitting in the truck again. That's what we do a lot when we podcast, because technically we really don't, either one of us, like, it's about to be nobody has a house.
It's about to
in
be
this family of the Element here.
No Element housing. No. I'm about to go to the RV life again for a short while we construct a supposed forever home. And you are going to construct a home soon, and you've been living in a makeshift home. It's been pretty homey.
Yeah,
it's been pretty nice.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Been good
for sure.
to us.
Yep. But it's literally like, as we prepare to go to the mountains in a few weeks, like, it is turned into a mountain in my house. Like, I don't even know why we're leaving to go to the mountains, because it's
just climb right there.
There it is. Talking about clothes upon toys, man. It's just ridiculous. But we're kind of both in the same boat where, I don't know when y'all are starting exactly, but we're looking at July. And I said that like last July, I think.
That's kind of, I don't know. There's like, what do you call starting, right? Because y'all started a while back because you got a pad.
Yeah.
So, and sewer and all that kind of stuff. And I've got to get all that kind of stuff ironed out. But like, I would imagine that the first pier hole will be drilled in July, something like that.
Well,
so
we're going to both be building houses during deer season.
I know, it's going to be a party.
We're going to have to figure out a way to not work, though, during deer season.
When you build your own house like I do, it's going to be hard to do. But I can foresee a whole bunch of 6 a.m. starts on the house and quitting about, 1 o'clock or something like that and going hunting.
Yeah.
So I think it works out pretty good. I mean, you and I both structure our lives around hunting and like what we do around it, so that we are free to go and do that. And I don't know, I think what we need to do this year is for sure concentrate on not skipping out isn't the right word, but taking the time to go hunt when it's time to go hunt, and not getting too antsy about it on October 8th when it's like 87 as opposed to 100 or whatever. It's still not good hunting weather.
But at the same time, when it's October 22nd and there's a front coming through, we don't need to be working and watching deer in the neighborhood rut.
We did a podcast. That? Yes, we were podcasting from the table in the cold front, and that buck was breeding that doe on the lakeshore, and he was a shooter.
We were like, all right, we're going to do this podcast and then go work 8 hours or whatever.
Have fun, party. Yeah. But
Weird.
Anyways, today we are not watching bucks rut around, although I would be fine fast forwarding. Actually, no, because we got to get September in there first. But
and it's some fishing.
And some fishing.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, today we're actually watching the fish rut.
Baby.
We did a little pre-scout a while ago. Went out and Tyler found a nice grasshopper and threw it in the water. And amongst the debris on the bottom, there is a couple brim beds, and it smoked a grasshopper right away.
Do they Does anybody tie a size 16 hopper? Because I think that's what would be like
I don't know,
ideal
but
in
I
this
think
situation.
they should. Honestly, I don't know how selective long ears
Well,
get.
I'm talking about for size, like mouth size, more than anything.
Yeah, it's
you know what I
true.
mean? Like
Yeah.
getting that hook in their mouth.
Yeah, I don't
So
know. I
that's
think
about
the smallest,
the size of the one I threw in there, I think.
Yeah, I threw a little bit bigger one, and it spooked the little perchy pretty bad.
Yeah.
So just to clear this up, we do understand that perch and brim are not actually what we're targeting, but that's what they're called here, all right? This is a long-eared sunfish
Yeah.
that we will be targeting here shortly. But first, before we do that, we've got a pretty cool, fun interview that we're going to have today.
It's so fun. It's so fun. Oh, our buddy Zach Ferenbaugh, who's been on the podcast a couple times. I think he did a big buck breakdown, and then one of the first episodes, one
I think
of the
number
early
four.
ones.
No, 4 was with is early.
It was early. It should have been number 4, but if you can recall, and if this doesn't surprise you, Zach's phone service during our first, he was like our first interview.
Yeah.
We were broed up at the time, and then we were like, hey, you want to be on our podcast? We're starting this new deal, He's like, what's a podcast? And so we taught them how to do the podcast, just in case you're wondering. And then he decided to do this podcast, and I'm not sure like if he had his iPhone headphones in at the time we were doing this, and then his hair was like blocking the microphone or something the whole time, but like we were unable to save or salvage any of his audio, which is one of the few times that's actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of going to probably deal with the same issues every time that we talk to Zach.
Yeah, Zach tends to be in places where the service is not good, which is usually like, if you want to kind of just list qualifications of a good podcast guest, it's usually people who spend time where the service isn't good.
Yeah.
So we will forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
However, if this continues, Zach, I don't know what to tell you.
No more, bro.
No more.
We have to find another long-haired friend. Yeah, that's. I'm looking forward to the conversation and to letting everybody listen to what Zach's going to talk about, because what we kind of want to talk about with him is not so much tactical thing, because he can speak about the tactics all day, and we'll talk a little bit about it because that's just what we do. But there's a lot of conceptual stuff about traveling and hunting with friends and that kind of thing, which is honestly, that's an important part of what we do, at least. So it's definitely something I'm interested in. And some of you guys may be pretty more hard than me and more of a solo hunter or whatever, but what they do is definitely not solo hunting, and what we do isn't either. And so definitely right up our alley. I hope you guys are going to enjoy that. And I'm hoping that we can get this done pretty quick, because I want to go cast a half-weight fly rod that we just got out of storage.
Oh, yeah. But before we get things going too quick, we do want to make sure that you're aware that our backcountry series that we've been working really hard on is going to release very soon.
Yeah, if not already. Depending on when this airs.
So, go check the feed, see if the backcountry series is out. If so, go listen to it. If not, anticipate that with much angst.
It's going to be good. There's got some big heavy hitters on the podcast that know what they're doing, man. People that spend hundreds of days out in the woods in the backcountry every year. So pretty excited to bring that to you. And if you like that series, man, a comment within a review on iTunes would be a great thing to let us know if you appreciate that, and if you want us to continue that in the next summer or whatever, we can do that again. So we're gonna try to release one of those a week, probably on Tuesdays. Don't hold us to that. We try to do our normal programming on Thursdays, and don't hold us to that. But
because we are fixing to have a really busy summer. The reason that we're kind of gearing up and we don't know when this podcast is going to release, the one we're recording today with Zach, is because you're fixing to leave on a ginormous vacation. I'm going on a pretty good vacation in early July, so like we've got a lot of fun coming up. So bear with us through this time. I know everybody's out having fun. If we don't have a podcast released on the exact time that you expect it, just go back about 30 episodes and listen to something again. It'll be fine.
I'm telling you, like I searched through our feed a few times recently, and I haven't looked through all of them, but like there are going to be episodes where I'm like, oh, I can't believe I forgot that we interviewed that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that was a great interview,
Yeah.
It's just been a few years, and my memory's terrible because I've been hitting the head a bunch, and that's just the way it goes. But there's been we've been blessed with a lot of good info on this podcast. A lot of people that can can spit the knowledge, man. So anyway, I guess anything else we need to hit here before?
Nah, I don't guess so, man. I'm just kind of excited to talk to Zach a little bit about life and then go see who's willing to take a fly out here in the creek.
Well, let's get Zach on the phone then. Don't even be doing that. All right, so now on the podcast we have Zach Ferenbaugh from the Hunting Public. What's up, dude?
Of course.
We ain't hearing him. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
We lost service already a little bit.
Yeah, I like introduced you and we didn't hear anything. I don't know if you even heard me.
No, I didn't even hear you guys. That's so weird because well,
That's all
no,
right.
we're good. I can hear you plain as day. I don't know. It's just funny because I thought the same thing. It's like you said, I introduced you and I was like, well, maybe they're just giving it some, airtime here for a sec.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll try it again and see what happens. All right, here we go. All right, so I think now on the phone we have Zach Ferenbaugh from the Hunting Public. What's up, dude?
Not much. Just trying to stay in service, I guess.
Dude, man, people, if only people knew what has been going on the last few minutes here, but dude, you're heading out to a pretty awesome state that KC and I visit quite a bit, huh? Heading to Colorado, right?
Yep.
Yeah, what's the plan there, dude? Some skiing and stuff, or what are you going to do out there?
Hopefully going to do some hiking, camping, stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's awesome. So,
Trying to enjoy the summer out there.
yeah, dude, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking off in like 12 days we're going to actually head up to the Olympic Peninsula, and I'm going to be gone for like a month just fishing my way up there pretty much, man. Pretty excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really good time.
Oh, yeah, dude. So, have you done any smallmouth fishing yet this year?
Yeah, I actually went up to, I was mentioning to you guys earlier that we went up to Wisconsin and the night at a river that, with a buddy that I fished with a lot last summer. And we hit a river that's just real good. It's a really good stream, and we caught some fish, and he caught a couple of really nice ones. I caught a couple decent, solid fish, but I was just happy to be out on a river and just kind of snapping out of that turkey hunting mindset, So it's just good to get out.
Yeah, dude. Y'all go hard on the turkeys, man. I feel sorry for the public turkeys when y'all are around. It's like it's just like adamant about killing them, man. It's crazy. We don't have, KC and I don't have quite the same turkey culture because where we grew up there wasn't turkeys, which is weird because they're like in like 95% of the U.S., but where we're at is like a hole, man. It's a void. So
it's weird.
Yeah, we get to go a little bit, but
How many birds did you kill this year?
I guess I personally pulled the trigger on 4, but I guess as a group, I don't even know how many we, as far as like with my buddies and me and, filming buddies and stuff like that, I don't even know really as a group how many, a lot. I think we would have shot turkeys in like over 10 states as a group.
it's cool.
Dang, that's cool. So I imagine somewhere there's a freezer full of turkey meat at this point.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice, man.
Definitely.
But,
it is. It is. It's really great because, when you shoot 1 or 2 birds a year, you can run out of that pretty quick. And it's like when you cover all this ground, actually can hold on to it, and eat it and kind of savor it a little bit longer. It's nice.
Yeah, for sure. We went, and this is actually kind of my first year as an adult to go kill some birds. And I shot 2 and brought them home, cooked them, and my wife said, that's my favorite thing that you've ever brought home that you shot and we eat. So now I have the green light to go kill as many turkeys as possible next year. So pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, that's a good deal. It's actually my favorite thing as well. I mean, there's nothing better. And now, I don't know I don't know how exactly you clean them, but generally I take the breasts out and then also cut the legs out. And usually I'll like slow cook the legs and stuff like that. But the inside of the breast meat, there's a tenderloin in there, a tender that like if you pop that, you can either cut it up the silver skin. There's a big tendon in there. You either slice it off that, or you can actually just grab that tendon and just pull the meat right off. And that little those two little pieces of meat on either side are like, that's the real deal. There's literally nothing better than that piece. Now, the breast is great, but that little tender in there is awesome.
Oh yeah, it's gold. I've been taking those legs and thighs and doing that. I've got the Meat Eater cookbook, and there's a recipe for a pozole in there, which is kind of like a Spanish stew with hominy in it. And I'm telling you, it is my favorite thing probably to eat. Like it is. Oh my gosh, it's just got that spicy, southwestern kind of taste to it or whatever. But that's kind of the first time I've done the legs and thighs thing. Growing up, we'd have a deer lease like down in the south part of the state here, and go down there and shoot birds, and we would just fry up, turkey strips, which are delicious. But, whenever you start really making use of the whole bird, I even made turkey bone stock this year. So really just going into my hippie realm, with the turkeys.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think it's important to use as much as you can. And as you learn more recipes and stuff, I've always just been a pretty straightforward guy as far as cooking. I'm like, pan frying, a deep frying, or slow cooking. But yeah, I know I got to get even more creative as time goes on because
you got that many turkeys in the freezer. It's like,
I'm not that great of a cook, so after a while, slow cooking everything is like, hey, I got to do something different. But,
yeah, that's awesome, dude. So I know. You like doing the smallmouth thing, and y'all are mostly kayaking for that thing, right? For that those adventures, I guess, right?
Yeah. Ever since I was in high school, we started wading, and then we kind of graduated to canoeing when we could. We had more time, and then really just got on the kayak game here in the last few years. And the reason I like the kayak is you can go by yourself, and you can get a shuttle. You can not get a shuttle, but you can use a bike as a shuttle, and you kind of do a whole float by yourself, no problem, pretty efficiently. So
it's cool.
That's how I do it mostly now if I have the choice, but I also still really like to wade.
Dude, are you one of those guys that's dropping like $3,000 on a kayak, or like what's?
Yeah. Actually, the kayak I have is pretty expensive, but the nice thing about it is I've been able to use it. I've definitely got my money's worth out of it at this point. I think I bought the kayak in 2016. So this would be I think it was 2016. So I used it all summer, 16, 17, 18. This is the fourth summer I'll have used it. So it's, I feel like it's worthwhile, and it can still, it's one of those things, as long as you take care of it, you can turn around and sell it too, and for the next one. So
right.
Yeah, sure. I've got a ocean kayak, Prowler 13, not quite as expensive, but it does me fine, and I use it on the creeks and rivers here in Texas a lot. But a lot of the guys, like, we live on a real big largemouth lake, right? Like Lake Fork, famous largemouth lake or whatever. And there's like this culture of kayak fishermen on the lake, which is kind of cool, but it's like, man, for the purpose you're using it for, like, couldn't you just buy like a $3,000 boat and be more efficient, But I can see where, like, in your scenario where you're going to be fishing creeks where, like, a hard-bodied boat or anything with a motor, it's just not going to be what works well. I guess it kind of makes sense more for exactly what you're doing. Have you been having issues with, like, the floodwaters and stuff up there messing up, different rivers and whatnot that you're used to fishing?
Well, actually, most of the flooding has been taking place in the area that I live, southern Iowa, where there's really not much for fishing. I think I probably told you guys that before.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of a dead zone as far as, like, river fishing goes. There's still good public lakes, but they're pretty, I guess they're not real crazy lakes. They're just kind of that, dammed up valleys or whatever where creeks feed into them. But they're good for largemouth fishing, but for river fishing, there's not much. But what's kind of cool about the area that I started targeting in Wisconsin this year is there are a lot of rivers that flow directly into Lake Michigan. So when that's the case, those rivers don't seem to be as affected by, a lot of rain as, like, I guess, some other tributary rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense. So when are you going to come down here and catch largemouths with us sometime?
Man, I really I want to as soon as possible, but you know how life's crazy and busy. But hopefully, I've always wanted to get down and fish Texas. I just have never got the chance.
Yeah, dude. It's awesome, man. You should come for sure. It's probably the issue for you in the future is that a lot of the best part of the year is probably mostly during turkey season, and it starts getting real hot right after y'all would finish up your turkey tour. So if you don't get down here to see us sometime soon, there's a good chance I'm going to be up in your country next year. If I don't draw a tag this year, the DNR is going to get a call and be like, what's going on? Because I think I have 4+1 this year, so I should draw it. And so I'm going to be up there this year, man, and I'm excited. And big thing we want to kind of talk about with you today is just traveling, because you guys do a lot of it. You're traveling right now, and that's just kind of something that's pretty. I think a lot of people dream about it, and it's probably more attainable than a lot of people know. But first thing I guess I would ask you in regards to this is, if I do draw that tag, how many spots are you going to help me eliminate before you're like, okay, you got to find it in this. This is narrowed down enough.
Do you mean how?
Where? How many spots are you going to help me eliminate? I'm not asking you to give me a spot, but how this kind of stuff is not what you need to hunt. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate. I feel like that's the toughest part as far as all the traveling hunting goes, is just having that knack to cross stuff off quick and not getting attached to anything. It's like the more you can do that, and the more you can just accept the fact that when you're traveling, you're always going to be on some sort of limited time, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you're hunting an area for a month or you're hunting it for a long weekend, you're still, at some point, you have to draw a line of just cutting stuff out. And I think, that's just one of those things. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get to where you're like, hey, none of these places really mean anything to me as far as I have no history with it. I have no, memories that they're telling me to set up in anything like this. It's as soon as you feel like you're not seeing the type of sign, whether that's deer or turkey sign, in these areas that you pick, you just cross out every area like that, because at some point you got to do that, So, I mean, as far as helping you cross out a lot of stuff, luckily in Iowa you don't have to cross out that much, because there's a lot of game and a lot of it. But there's definitely areas that on the given year, as we've hunted it, I kind of feel like I've hunted a full cycle at this point, if this makes sense. You kind of hit all the different oaks that are dropping acorns at different times. You hit different flood levels. Kind of seems like some of the river bottoms and stuff that we hunt, I kind of go through a flood cycle where, every 3 to 5 years they'll flood. And right in this year, we're kind of in that, high water year. So it's going to kind of reset that whole cycle, which will be fun. But, on every given year, based off water levels, based off what trees are dropping, the mass crop, everything like that, it can help you, once you kind of understand that cycle and you understand what's going on at a given time, it does make it a lot easier to knock everything out that is not holding the deer or turkey. So, for example, this year we focused on a lot of pin oaks, because that's where, those were the oaks that were dropping the most, and the deer were just floating those areas. So that's just one small example. It's all about crossing off stuff, whether or not, hanging out.
Yeah, for sure. So Tyler and I have got a couple places out of state that we're pretty partial to as well, just from previous experiences with big bucks or whatever, or seeing deer or what have you. So when you're approaching a new season, especially one where you're talking about it's going to be kind of like a reset like this year is in Iowa at least, how much are you letting yourself still have preferences from past seasons carry over versus trying to just go in every year with a clean slate?
I think it varies a lot, but like I guess there's a couple different examples. I mean, as far as like spots go that let me just start by saying, like, I think there, to a certain degree, there's always terrain features that you get, you target, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's specific ridges and like how, depending on how like long those ridges are, how broad they are, whatever it may be, whatever makes, specific terrain type jump out at you. Those things always stay the same, but what is actually growing on those ridges, whether it be crops, it's different oak trees, or just like, swampy areas, whatever it may be. It's like all that stuff can change, your decision. And as far as like getting attached to a spot, like here's an example. It's like in 2017, we were hunting a place in the Sandhills in Nebraska that had, every time we'd go into it, we'd see big bucks, like every time.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we went into it, 2 times, I think, and we just weren't seeing what we were hoping to see. So just bail on it. It's like, yeah, the year before there was a bunch of big bucks in there, but things change, and for whatever reason, and especially in a place that you're not hunting, you're not familiar with, because you're not hunting it, year in and year out, or you haven't been hunting it for a long time or scouting a lot of it. Like, you may not necessarily even know the reason why, but if they're not there, don't waste your time. Like, it's just like, I feel like I catch myself saying this all the time. It's like, if you're not totally confident that you're hunting where the deer or the turkeys or whatever it may be are, then like, get out of there, because you're probably right. Like, if you're not seeing signs, then they're not there. And like, or you're not just seeing them, whether if you're like in Nebraska's case, if you're just like not spotting anything, like just keep moving and don't get attached, because if you get attached, I think that's kind of, I think that's one of the, getting attached at home or in an out-of-state situation is like one of the easiest things to do, and also one of the probably most detrimental things you can do as a hunter to success. It's like, get locked onto something and it's no good, you're just wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a realistic goal is kind of a big deal in like setting up your mentality, making it so that like in the end, when you get done with the trip, the experience is at least a good one, and you feel like you've had the experience that you kind of went for, especially in like an out-of-state situation. So just talk like briefly about how you guys set up your mentality, your goals, and you're realistic, and then also like how you're able to still have the grit and the determination to kind of achieve those goals as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is just got to realize every state's going to be different. I mean, if you're going to go do an out-of-state trip in, like Iowa or Kansas, for example, you can have a little bit higher expectations, I suppose, than a lot of other places. But, you also got to keep it realistic as far as like, you just, unless it's some place that you've, gone to consistently over and over again, you're feeling like you're starting to figure it out. I mean, you just don't have, I guess it's just hard to get, it's hard to have a realistic goal of shooting a really big buck, or, going in and shooting a bunch of turkeys, whatever it may be, deer or turkey. I guess I think I'd ask too, like, do you mean specifically deer or turkey or both, or either?
Yeah, mostly deer. Yeah, we hunt turkeys like once a year pretty much. So
yeah.
Deer is definitely our what we like to do probably more. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, as far as deer, like, you just got to have that mentality of like, it's not, I guess it's just not, well, you just got to realize every state's different, right? And I mean, if you do your research, I mean, you can get a little bit of an idea of what the caliber of deer are. But I think one problem that a lot of people have is like, I hear people all the time say like, "Oh, Ohio's got huge bucks." Well, it's like, I mean, yeah, Ohio has huge bucks, but that's on, I mean, big tracts of private land, and those are the pictures you're seeing. What you're not seeing is, the crazy amount of out-of-state hunters that are in the public land pull-offs and stuff like that. So when you get there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is going to be a lot different. I guess that's the thing. You got to be. You just can't have too high of expectations. I guess at least that's what we feel. We just feel like it's really easy for guys to get these crazy expectations that are just not realistic. And as far as like continuing to go, I mean, we just like to figure stuff out. So like whether we're hunting a 2-year-old buck or we're hunting an 8-year-old buck, it doesn't really matter to us. We're just the ability to learn a new habitat is pretty important to us.
Sure.
This is something that I've been pretty inquisitive about for quite a while, and I ask it to different people who we have on the show, and no one's. I mean, people are giving me answers, but like I never really get like the nitty gritty of what I'm looking to understand. Like, how do you know if we're going to dive into this a little bit? How do you know, when it's like any legal buck or like a forky is a good thing, or man, really you should probably wait on something that's a 4.5-year-old deer. I mean, you're in the spot, and like a lot of times, it's easier to know when trophy potential is really good, right? But
right.
I feel like, for instance, I reflect back to a trip that Tyler and I took about 2 years ago. We went to a public land spot in Texas that was kind of further away from home. It's kind of a first-time venture. And I passed like a little 1.5-year-old buck, and it was the only antlered critter the whole time that we saw. And passed him on the first night. And looking back, like shooting that deer would have been a success because we would have shot a buck on public on a 3-day trip. But I didn't do it because you kind of had that expectation of, man, I've never been here before. It's kind of remote, could be good, and then it's not. How do you judge accurately really what you should be shooting on a place?
I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. Like, if it makes me happy, I'm gonna shoot it. And I think the other thing that like you got to remember is, really, how many people actually shoot a buck on public land in the first place, let alone out of state?
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound harsh, but like you said, if you would have shot that buck on public land, even if it's a 1.5-year-old buck, and, it's just like one of those deals where, I think in my opinion, it's really, really hard. And unless you do it a lot, it's really hard to shoot, a big buck on an out-of-state trip, like a really big buck, So to me, it's just like pretty much like if I get a good, clean shot and the deer is doing what I thought it would be doing in that habitat that I'm unfamiliar with, that's a success to me. So like that buck in some situations, in a lot of situations, is going to just simply be a 2 or 3-year-old buck. And then, maybe if I have a ton of time to hunt in an area where I'm seeing a lot of good bucks, I may hold off a little bit, but like, we're just so like, I guess as our group goes, we may be the wrong people to ask as far as that goes, because we really do. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to shoot some really good bucks, but like, I don't know that people fully understand either, like how serious we are when we say like we will shoot a lot of different caliber of bucks and be perfectly happy, because to us what measures success is like figuring them out in that area. And whether that's a 2-year-old or like I said, an 8-year-old, it doesn't really matter. It's just that's part of the experience for us, is just like figuring it out and then seeing something because think about when you really go back throughout a whole season, whether you're hunting at home or you're hunting out of state, like the amount of opportunities that you have of a good, clean, 20-yard broadside shot at a buck generally is like the number of deer that are like bucks that are in range of that, or in the chip shot range, is really relatively small. And if you're thinking about trying to put that into a week-long trip, like your odds go down significantly. So it's like, if you're always going on these out-of-state trips and you're like trying to set, at least in my opinion, you're always trying to set realistic goals, like you're going to go home without shooting deer most of the time, or you're setting goals of like the highest caliber of deer in the area. And like, you're going, you're like, for example, like you come to Iowa and you're just like 160 or bust. Well, there's a pretty good chance you're going to actually eat that tag. I'm not saying you can't shoot a buck like that, but like there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to, because it's pretty darn hard to get a 160 in range on public land no matter where you're at. If you just go into it with the expectation of like, hey, if I get the right opportunity and I have a great hunt and it's on the, to me, it's like, I always tell people, it's just like, I just know. When the one comes by that I'm going to shoot, I just know it. I don't know how to explain exactly what that means, but like, I just know.
Yeah. How often, in retrospect, do you pass something that you wish you would have shot? Like for instance, in my story, like at that moment, that didn't make me happy. I had like high expectations, I had dreams,
Sure.
But like looking back, it would have made me happy. And I feel like that's kind of maybe it comes with more experience. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. To be honest, at this point, I would say that I've. Oh man, I don't know that I honestly don't know that I've ever regretted passing a deer. Like I've never looked back and been like, man, I should have shot there.
Yeah. Yeah. What about kind of take that a little bit further? Just kind of that uncertainty of what you should be shooting. Sometimes, especially as you start moving kind of out of that, heartland stuff, out of the Midwest, and you start going, either west or south or wherever, where your population densities are just lower or might be even non-existent in some places. How do you have the confidence to like just take off to a place that you've never been and just feel like there's going to be deer in that area that are there to hunt?
I guess the confidence for at least the style that I've gotten to is like, if they're there, like I cover enough ground at this point on foot, just scout, in season scouting, I guess, that like I'm gonna know pretty quick that they're either there or they're not. And if they're not there, within that state, I'm going to the next piece. Like not gonna set up camp and be limited to that if I'm not finding deer sign. So I guess having the confidence is just like having the confidence in the ability to find them based off of scouting and looking for sign. To me, that's what's giving me the confidence as far as that goes. It's like if they're there, then we'll find them. If not, then we're gonna move to the next place to where we are gonna find them, because they're somewhere out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think like the reason these questions come up for us is just because like I feel like that maybe a lot of people can like see how you guys or even us, as much as we hunt, can just justify going out of state, spending $400, $500, $600 on a tag. But for like the weekend warrior, kind of the blue collar guy, like it might be like a little bit more of a special opportunity or an occasion for them to go out of state. So they want
right. And I guess for me, like that's the thing too, is like that's why we try to hunt in relatively short trips, like what we feel would be realistic to a guy, hunting on his vacation, and also why we go into it. I mean, really, that's just why we do everything we do, is to try to relate to what other guys would be doing. And I think as far as that goes, like you say, the weekend warrior guy, like I hate the idea of a guy that maybe his vacation's only 5 days. I hate the idea of that guy going into an out-of-state trip, spending a bunch of money, bunch of time, time away from home, whatever it may be, to just go and have these like super unrealistic expectations of what he's about to go there and shoot, versus just going there, hoping to learn something new, have fun, and maybe the next year hold out for something a little bit bigger. But like, you got to have a starting point, and you got to have some confidence boosters that are going to allow you to I guess encourage you to keep doing it. And I think, and it depends on, to each his own, right? Like maybe a guy has shot just a ton of big bucks, and his goal is to just travel and shoot something bigger. Like it's going to be different for everybody. But I'm not at a point in my life where I feel I got to be super picky, because ultimately it's just not what it's about for me. It's more about, like I said, just learning something different, and that's really what it's always going to be.
Sure.
I think what it's always going to be about. But like if you're going to spend the money on it, like I always think this, like, man, I spent the money on it, like I want to get the food from it, like, so like I'm not going to go home and not and not have a deer with me, you know,
Yeah.
like whether he's big, little, whatever. Like the last day, like I'm shooting a doe if I have to.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm going home with something because I feel like I spent the money for the food is the biggest, you know, really at the end of the day, what it's really about, I guess.
Yeah, and it's surprising how many people will charge you up for having that opinion. You know, like I've got a pretty coveted elk tag in New Mexico this year that I was just really blessed to draw. And I'm kind of going down there with the same thoughts. It's like, you know, the first X amount of days I'm there, you know, I've never been a trophy elk hunter by any means. We've talked about elk in the past, you and I have, but like this is a unit where like you go to shoot big bulls, so why not go down there and try to shoot a big bull? But I guarantee you, it's any elk tag, and on day 9, the last day of the hunt, if a beautiful cow gives me a chance, I'm gonna shoot her. You know, and it's kind of weird to say that, and people get real mad about you having that opinion on things. But I don't know. So, you know, a while ago you were saying at this point or where you're at and that sort of thing. I'm gonna kind of play the other side of the coin here on you a little bit. All right. So, I think a lot of times the pressure to shoot something bigger or older or whatever it is, you know, to hold out, comes from only having maybe one opportunity in one state or what have you, you know, and being where you're at, getting to travel and have different tags everywhere. I can see where, like, the more tags you have, and even like, you know, big time industry TV guys or whatever, when they're going on 27 hunts a year or whatever, like they go and shoot the first, you know, decent buck they can because they want something on film or whatever, you know.
Right.
And then, like, if you take that and then you kind of go completely the opposite direction with it, and let's take someone from our home state here in the county we live in. You get 2 bucks. One's a branch antler buck, or 13 inches or wider, and one's a dink, and that's what you can shoot, right? So, like, naturally, guys who have fewer tags are going to want to hold out more. Do you think that if you were back in that world where, like, you're just hunting Iowa, and this may have been what it was like back then, or Ohio or wherever, that the temptation to hold out for something greater would be there more because you have, you know, less arrows to fling?
Yeah, if I'm in Iowa, I actually do. Like I would say in Iowa, in my home state, and that I know really well.
Yeah.
And I have a really good grasp on it. It's not as much about, like, you know, learning I mean, I shouldn't say it's not about learning something new. I mean, in my opinion, you learn something new every time you go out. But it's like, it's not about learning a new area or habitat. It's about just, like, executing the things that you've learned in the past, you know, at some point having that ability to execute that. And yeah, in that instance, then I'm going to probably be more likely to hold out. I mean, in Iowa, I wait for a bigger buck, you know, in my eyes, what's a little bit bigger buck, but that, you know, I guess it still is like, if it gets to be later in the season, like, I would rather shoot one than not shoot one. So, like, I guess you asked a question earlier of, like, have I ever regretted not shooting one?
Yeah.
And yes, there was this one time, and this was before I traveled, and it was because of having, you know, the whole season with only one buck tag. It's exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
It was opening morning of Ohio, and me and my friend Ben went into a piece of public land, and, like, right off the bat, a really nice 8-pointer, just, you know, maybe a 3-year-old 8-pointer came in, stood at 30 yards broadside, didn't shoot.
Yeah.
And the whole rest of the season, I never got an opportunity like that. And to this day, I wish I would have just shot him, because I still had buddies that had tags that I could have gone and sat with. I could have still hunted the whole season one way or another. Maybe not have an arrow or a tag in my pocket to fill, but, like, I still would have hunted the whole season. It's like, why did I not just shoot that buck? It would have been an opening morning. You know, I remember his antlers, you know, were chocolate colored. Like, it's just like, it would have been such an awesome buck to shoot. But instead I got greedy, and I guess I totally lied to you. Yeah. That one sticks in my head a lot. And I just think, oh, I don't want that. I don't want any part of that, you know, of that again, where I just regret not shooting one. And I guess if people are worried about shooting one and then not getting to go, I mean, just go sit with your friends. Like, it's really a fun thing to do. You can get, you know, we've been doing it for forever, obviously, when we're filming and stuff, but, you know, go take a camera or, you know, take pictures or whatever. Just go hang out, learn something new. There's ways to be in the woods without hunting. You know,
Yeah.
without having a tag. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
You know,
that would be my advice there.
You mentioned something kind of cool there I've never really thought about. Hunting's about one of the few things out there that I can think of that being greedy will end up with you having less of what you want than more of what you want. And I guess kind of in the long run, if you're a greedy person, it might come back to bite you in the butt, you know, or whatever, by losing relationships or whatever. But like in that exact instance, because you felt that you were being greedy, you didn't shoot a deer. You know,
Yep.
and everything else in life, it's kind of the other way. Like if you're greedy, you're going to take more of what you want as opposed to less.
Right.
So, no, it's kind of cool.
Just trying to be greedy and thinking like, oh, I'll get a bigger one. You know, I got all this time and I'm going to put a whole bunch of effort into it. And like, you know, it is an interesting thing. Like, because at the end of the day, what was a big, like, you know, probably realistically a slightly bigger set of antlers ever going to do for me at the end of the day? Like,
Right.
What was it going to do for me? I was still going to, you know, ultimately going to get the same amount of meat, which is why you should do it in the first place, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, I don't know, the whole kind of thing we're walking all around right now is kind of this idea of being selfless, obviously, but like, you have to have a counterpart, as far as a human counterpart, in order to be selfless towards something, right? And so there's this whole been this whole movement in the last few years, I guess, of like this hardcore like solo hunting public land, dude. Like you're talking about all the challenges that you could possibly have. Let's put them all in one guy, and make this like solo hunter thing, and that's like. Obviously, it takes a lot to get that done, and it's something that's a good achievement for those who can do it. But I know, I'm pretty sure where you guys stand. I know Casey and I really rely on each other a lot for like things like just like keeping the positivity when things are going kind of south, and we're not able to make things connect, and we're getting so close, and especially me, like I can get a bad attitude about it pretty bad. So I know like having him to like bounce ideas and all these different things, like talk about some of the benefits that you guys have in just being able to not be out there solo all the time and to be hunting with each other.
I think, for one, like you said, bouncing the ideas, that's huge for us. Like, we always talk about, like, and I know I've mentioned it in recording just today, it's like, don't get locked into a spot. And as soon as somebody's doing that, we're like, hey, dude, like, just break away from it. Like, either go in there and kill one and quit bouncing around the edges, or, like, just stop, or just quit hunting there in general, because like you're wasting your time. And like I feel like when we say that to each other, it's just immediately it's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy in deer hunting to fall into that old mentality of thinking of like, if you bump a deer, it's the end of the world, and you only got one, and you should only be hunting one huge buck, and blah blah blah. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, like there's tons and tons of acres to hunt, on public land across the country. Like, you're never gonna, if you just limit yourself to one deer, one spot, you're gonna just be banging your head against the wall after a while. But if you're going to it open-minded, you've got, in our opinion, you got a better odds of having a lot more fun and learning a lot more. So that's one really good benefit. And another good benefit is just, I guess, like, I think for me is like, I know that my season's never going to end. No matter if I fill all the tags that I could, that I'm going to buy for the season in a week, like I'm not done hunting, because even if Aaron, Jake, Greg, and Ted do too, like I'll just go to Ohio or I'll go somewhere else. Like I got a lot of friends that are always going to be hunting. So the more friends that you have and you stay connected with throughout the hunting season, instead of making it some sort of weird competition, like I know, like kind of what you're talking about, like the guys that are like, solo hunter, like they really take a lot of pride in like being secretive and stuff. It's like, I don't want any part of that, because like I want to just keep hunting with all my friends throughout the season and like learning from them and learning together, and just I like to hunt because I think it's fun.
Yeah, dude.
And like hunting with my buddies is fun, and I think sometimes hunting by myself is fun too. Don't get me wrong. Like I sometimes miss that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But like I never want to do just one or the other. You know what I mean? I think it's healthy to do both, and just learn from each other as well as learn from your own personal experiences. And to me, that's the best part about hunting with a group, is that you're never done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you don't have to be making YouTube videos to be that either. Like, my dad and his buddies have been doing it for years too. So it's just one of those things that hunting, in my opinion, hunting with a group is about the only way to go.
Yeah.
What about, so kind of to expand on that, like the benefits of it, here in the past season or so, y'all have really done a lot of these, like go somewhere and hunt with some newer people that, maybe you've known, but, haven't never hunted with or whatever. What do you feel about that dynamic? Do you really enjoy it all the time? Are there times when it's okay, or is it like something that you think everybody should try out?
I mean, we were actually just talking about it last night. I mean, some people, it seems like, as far as like videos and, some people are like, man, like, you're hunting with these guys and like, that, like they're doing this wrong or whatever. It's like, to us, that's part of the experience. It's like just sharing like the knowledge, it's like, yeah, maybe we hunt with some guys that aren't very experienced turkey hunters, for example, but that doesn't mean that like, we're not, again, we're not going out there just to shoot a whole bunch of turkeys. And to us, it is fun to go with somebody that, for example, we just went hunting with the guys from Hushin and Born and Raised. And like, they admittedly, like, you have like very, very, very little to no turkey hunting experience. And like, right away, we had, we have talked to those guys. Well, I've never hunted with them. And, or I had never hunted with them at least. And, we went out there and it was a blast, man. Like we all have similar interests because we all love the outdoors. And like, while they don't have a ton of turkey hunting experience, like it's fun for us to just like, be out there, and they're interested in learning. We're interested in like helping them out, and that's fun to us. And like, I would say every time we hunt with somebody new, I sincerely enjoy it. For one reason or another.
Yeah.
And, I guess like, going into it and meeting new people, like that's another reason that I really like it. It's like, I love going into new camps and just meeting new people and talking about their experiences. One of my favorite things to do, like when we're on deer and turkey tours, is just talk to like more local guys and just hear more about, like, okay, so other than deer hunting or turkey hunting, what else do you guys like to hunt? And like, I found out about things that I didn't even know really existed. Like some guys from that hunt around the Mississippi River, whether that be in Mississippi or Louisiana, they were like talking about hunting these giant swamp rabbits. Like, I didn't know that existed, but they were talking about how fun it was. And like, to me, just meeting these people in camp and, talking with them and hunting with new people, like that's always just so fun. Like, yeah. I've seriously always thought it would be fun to like see a turkey, for example, and then like get into like see him driving or something and like get to a pull off and be getting in the pull off just at the exact same time as some other guy that like I've literally never met, never talked to, and just be like, hey dude, like we'll film you shoot this turkey. Like you you mind if we just tag along just for the experience? Like I always think, I think at some point that'll happen, but like I always think that would be so fun just because like if you could just like link up forces with somebody without ever knowing them before, like I feel like that'd be a pretty special thing. And I think that hunting can allow you to do is be, just be social, be on the same team. Like there's no reason, in my opinion, you should not be on the same team. I mean, I think it gets me kind of fired up, and it gets everybody in our group kind of fired up. It's not like, what do you win at the end of the day?
Yeah.
You don't, man. You actually do the counter of that, I think,
We all lose when you do that.
Yeah. So,
yeah, exactly.
For sure, man. Yeah, it's great stuff, man. And I feel like it's just such a breath of fresh air. It's the way a lot of people feel, but they just don't maybe have the platform that you do to speak on that, but they're like, frankly, we've had some guys on in the last few months or so that just that eat the solo thing up, and that's the only way they want to do it, and it's because they can't find anybody that hunts the way they do. And I think it's good to be to be driven to do something, but at some point, you know, man, like I can say this, and you spoke to this earlier, but like last year, Casey and I hunted together the whole year, and then his vehicle crashed out on him basically, and stopped working in December, and so he had to like go to work so he could afford to get a new vehicle, and I got to go on a solo trip by myself and hunted. Really only hunted one afternoon. I tagged out the first afternoon I got there, but like I was like that just afternoon I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. It's a breath of fresh air, but at the same time, like I didn't laugh one time on that trip by myself. You know what I mean? Like you just don't sit there and just like bust out laughing very often to your own thoughts, you know? So like,
if you do that real often, it might be a problem.
Yeah, we have a few guys that walk around town here in Emory that do that. So they're kind of weird, but yeah, you know what I mean? Like we laugh our heads off all the time, dude, around here, around, you know, on trips and stuff. So I just, I look at that as like being a super, super good benefit, man. And I mean, like I talked about earlier, but also just when you start like talking about getting up, and I know you guys do this as hard as anybody, but just like getting up early, staying up late, and working on whatever you guys are working on at night, and then doing it all over again, like days and days and days at a time. Like you get tired to the point where like it's hard to stay in the game, stay focused, and not to mention just stay positive sometimes. So I'm sure that's a big help for me, I know, to be around KC, because he's just ultimately positive, you know. So
and the inverse to that is Tyler. Like I get kind of down in the off season, which is kind of strange, and Tyler's like always Mr. Rah-Rah. You know, this time of year, he's like, dude, we're going to kill them all. I was like, okay.
But that's the deal, is like you have different personalities, man, and that's what like ultimately that lifts everybody up to be a better hunter.
Oh,
kind of
for sure.
Same thing we're talking about, you know?
Yeah, like one of the things that like I really thought was hilarious this season I started doing when we were in New York. Like every morning we'd get up and like, man, it was really starting to get to that point in the season, and we were in part of the time zone where like, dude, it just got early. Like the mornings were early, real early, like a lot of 3:15, 3:30, like for 7 days, you know. And in the middle of that, like I'd wake up and like we're all dragging, and like I do a little bit better hopping up, and just like I got way too much energy in general, so like I just hop up, and it's like I'm like immediately like talkative and stuff, and it's just like one of the things I'd always say. And like I really do believe that like when you think about it this way, you know, you're like, yeah, I guess you're right, we better go get up and go. It's like I'd always just be like, boys are going to be gobbling somewhere. And like when you think about it that way, you're like, hey, like, yeah, and if we go find them, and if we get our butts out of bed and we go find them, like it's going to be a fun day. So like it's kind of just this like, you know, you play off each other, where if you're by yourself and you get up and it's, you know, day 5 of getting up at 3:30, you're like, I may just sleep in, when that might have been the day that you got out there and got one. You know? So I think it's important to motivate each other, and, you know, I mean, I think that in itself is an important or a cool factor of hunting together, is just like you guys had mentioned, like having their ups and downs and stuff, and you know, just keeping each other positive and keeping each other motivated to get out and go. Because if you're not out there, you ain't gonna get anything.
That's right, man.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, along with that, like it's not only is it important to like hunt with somebody for that reason. Well, maybe important is the wrong word, but a good thing to do for that reason, right? But once you become like, not to get like too weird about it, but like emotionally attached to the other person, where like you care about each other, like there's also like this responsibility of like, man, if I don't get up and do this and work hard, like how fair is that to my buddy, right? Like for instance, I'm pretty bad about dragging my feet in the morning. I get up earlier than Tyler every morning, and he's ready 15 minutes before I'm ready. I don't know how it happens, but like there's this drive in me to like make sure and hurry up and get ready and do things, because I know that like I have somebody relying on me, you know, and I'm going to affect his experience if I don't do my part of the gig. And I think that that's something, I don't know, that's one of the, and there's a ton of this. We could write a book about it. There's probably 17 books already out there about it, of like the life lessons that you can get from hunting or a hunting camp or having hunting partners, right? Like it's kind of important as a human to learn that reliability and learn kind of how to rely on each other.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's definitely got a lot of positive influences, I feel, to be hunting with other people. And you know, on the flip side of that too, I think there's a lot of things that like you can learn about yourself in solo hunting, and that's why I think, you know, doing a little bit of both is important. And you know, you guys, or Tyler had mentioned that you went on a trip, you know, by yourself and you didn't laugh as much. It's like I went on a trip to Minnesota. It ended up being short. I shot a turkey the first morning, but I was there for, you know, I was there in the whole trip, I guess, in general, for about 24 hours. But it was like, after I shot that turkey, it's like, I didn't high five anybody, and that was kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think I called my dad, and I was just like, you know, what do you do when you shoot a turkey and nobody's with you? You know?
Yeah.
It's like my sister, when she was like 4 or 5 years old, she had an imaginary friend, you know. I mean, I guess she could have done something like that. I mean,
yeah. The turkey didn't want to give you 5, so.
no.
I do always have somebody to talk to because I talk to myself a fair amount.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Are you a big like self-motivator like that?
talking to myself.
Or is it just weird talking to yourself?
Oh, it's mostly just weird.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Do you move your mouth when you do that, or is it just in your head?
Oh, it's out loud.
Okay. I do have moments where I will bust out laughing, but it's usually like if I'm watching a video or something like that, you know.
I laugh at squirrels a lot in the woods. Squirrels make me laugh a lot. But yeah. So just kind of in general, you know, we've talked a lot about the friendships, about camping and hanging out with people and traveling to do all this stuff. As hunters, like you change like with the seasons, right? Every year is a little bit different, and then like your passions can sometimes shift. Like I would agree, or let me ask you, do you agree that kind of all three of us here kind of all will remain hunters the rest of our lives, right? It's just something we do.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yep.
but it always is. It's ever changing, right? Like the way you like to hunt, like for whether it's, you know, a tree stand versus on the ground, or rattling versus pinch points, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Do you feel like that from here on out you're going to want to do the traveling thing and go to different places and see new things, or are you going to kind of get your fill of that travel bug and then want to settle in and really hone in to a specific spot?
There's too much now. There's too much world out there to not. I mean, and you're so limited, you know, in life of like how long and you know how long you have to go do those things. Like, I mean, there's just too much to see for me to like ever get content. Where I may not do it as much at some point in my life. I'll never like. I really hope that I'll never get content, and I just don't see that happening. I mean, honestly, like, you know, like Iowa at this point is like, okay, like I've really done this a lot now. Like I want to do something different, you know, and it's just one of those things. Like it just is really not about like, it's not about numbers, or like it's not about shooting a bunch of big bucks or shoot a bunch of turkeys. It's just like I want to do it in as many places and see as many things as I possibly can, and feel like, you know, I've you know, just learned as much as I can as a hunter and become as good of a hunter as I can be, you know. And like for turkeys, for example, like I really want to try to get one in as many of the, you know, 49 states that they're in as I can. Like it's a goal of mine. I'm keeping track, you know. It's like, it's something that, and if I manage to get all 49, like I'll do, you know, try to do as many as I can again in different areas, like just different public areas, you know, not just go back and hunt the same old spots. It's like,
is there public land in the Yucatan to go do the oscillated on public land? I don't know. I think that would be kind of tough.
I don't know. I guess that's where it starts to be like, I don't have as much interest in that as much as I do the 49 states, you know, like the 49 states, maybe Mexico at some point, but even that is like, you know, there's something about the you know, I guess covering all that ground in your home country. I think the U.S. is an awesome place to be able to just travel and hunt turkeys kind of at kind of at will, you know, like you can just pop into a state real quick and hunt it and, you know, keep moving, and you get to cover so much ground and see so much cool stuff. I mean, I see way more, like I like turkey hunting better I think I ultimately like turkey hunting better than deer because you can actually, in such a short time frame, just see so much. You get to see all different types of hunting cultures. You get to see all different types of habitat. You get to see all different types of just like, I mean, just anything you want. You just get to see a ton of stuff, and like you get to do it in such a short time frame. Where like deer season, you know, at best you're only making, you know, at best you're making like 5 trips a season, where in turkey season you're doing like 10 or 12, you know. And I mean, to me that's pretty darn cool. Where I want to hunt as many deer states as I can in my lifetime. I don't see where I'd ever get, you know, 49 states to hunt deer in, where I could see it actually being realistic for turkey, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like as far as the big game side goes, you'll ever be satiated of whitetail and want to look for other stuff?
No, I want to elk and mule deer hunt. I mean, it's like it's on the radar for sure. I mean, we're seriously trying to figure out ways to be able to do more of that stuff, as well as, you know, continue to hunt whitetail and turkey. I mean, our I guess bread and butter, if you will always be deer and turkey, just because that's what, you know, we built our channel on and everything, and that's where the majority of our viewers are coming from. But at the same time, we feel like there could be some definite value in, you know, how do I, as an Eastern hunter, you know, do more Western hunting, you know, over the counter, or how do I apply for these different tags? How do I do all this different stuff? And I think that there's definitely interest there. It may not interest everybody, but there's interest there. And to be completely honest, here's the reason for me is like, the one thing about the Midwest and the East is like, I never feel small anymore. Like when I was younger, like I remember like when I was 18 years old and I went to Southern Ohio for the first time, and I was on like a huge state forest or national forest of like these big hills. Like, you know, in my head, some I'd never hunted in before, you know. I felt small, and I felt like, oh man, like I'm a little nervous, like it's a little scary, it's a little intimidating, and like that doesn't happen to me anymore. And I feel like the only way that I'm going to get that is if I start going west, you know, further west to hunt. And I mean, like you name the state in the East that I've hunted, is just like, it really is just not that intimidating. And so like at some point you just walk, even if you're lost, you just walk and you'll follow a drainage out and you'll hit a road, you know, like it's not like, I feel like it's limited as far as like just having that knack of like making it out always, you know, making it out safe and be, you know, where, you know, it gets a little bit more dangerous as you start getting into some of these bigger, more remote areas. And like, I want to feel small. I want to feel intimidated.
Yeah, sure. That's cool. You need to hunt in grizzly country, I think. That's what you're missing.
That'll definitely do it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, there's not plenty, but there is public land down here in Texas if you need to come down here and, you know, satiate another state of whitetail, man.
Well, I think at least some of us are going to be in Oklahoma and Kansas this year, so we'll be close. And then, you know, as time goes on, we want to hit them all, man. We do.
When you're ready for that challenge, you know, once you finally get there, come on down. No, I'm kidding. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all do more cool stuff, man. It's a lot of fun to watch you go all over the place and hunt stuff. So very cool, man. I like what y'all are doing, and I appreciate it too, because, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's like we were saying earlier. It's just, you know, and you hear this a lot because people tell it to you a lot because it's deserved. Like it's a breath of fresh air. You know, it's a whole lot different than the old 20-acre food plot stuff, and it's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks,
man. I got one question before you leave.
Sure.
So I know you guys have had a lot of success hunting public and everything, but give me a reason or a few reasons why I shouldn't be looking for like permissions on private if I draw the Iowa tag this year.
Why you shouldn't?
Yeah, like why? You know, like
I mean, man, if it like no reason. If you want to, like, by all means. And like, to be honest, it's pretty easy in Iowa.
Really?
Yeah, like, I mean, I would say easier than a lot of places. You know, for me, I guess for me, it's just, I feel like I've thought about this a lot, For me, it's ultimately like as a person who's trying to create videos that help people learn, the only way to do it, whether, anybody can knock on a door and ask for permission and get it. But the only thing that's a sure thing that every single person that has a tag can hunt is public land. And I feel like that's the way to be the absolute most relatable. And that's why, for the most part, I'm not saying I would never, hunt private again in the right situation, but, the last however many years I haven't hunted private land for deer or turkey. And it's just become, that's the reason for me. But if I'm not doing this as video, I would definitely ask more permission. I would still hunt tons of public land and mostly hunt public land. But if the opportunity was there and somebody let me go, it's the same thing, right? It's hey, the next guy had just as much right to ask for permission as you did, and I don't see any problem with that. Now I'm not the leasing type. I don't have any problem with it, but that, in my opinion, asking for permission is it's a kind of the same deal, right? Anybody could have done that as well, and I think it's kind of a lost art. We actually, I was filming, I wasn't hunting, but we actually did quite a bit of that in Wisconsin and had a lot of success as far as getting access to actually a pretty absurd amount of ground on private land just by simply knocking on doors and talking to farmers. And we got a lot, like I said, a lot of ground doing that. And it's one of those things when I was younger, we would do it all the time for fishing access or shooting groundhogs, small game hunting, because around where I grew up, there wasn't any public land within, a couple hours. Mm-hmm. So I used to ask for permission all the time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, if that's, if you want to do it, I stand for it. And I say definitely in a state like Iowa, where you got a lower population of people, there's way more of a chance of because a lot of people that just straight up don't hunt,
Yeah. So I guess the big reason I'm asking, I guess more than anything, is I'm not afraid to, me, I'm not afraid to go off and walk several miles to hunt on public or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm trying to make my hunt easier, pack in and out or whatever, which
Sure.
Obviously is nice, but I'm not scared to do that. It's more what is my experience with deer? How does that change off of public land there in Iowa? Do I have a chance at bigger bucks or more deer sightings or more patternable deer? Dealing with less people, or am I still going to probably have a permission piece that's 10 other guys in the county have permission to hunt as well? Or how does all that compare? You know what I mean?
I think let's put it this way. With my knowledge of the area that, you'd be hunting in, around where we live there, it's on public land, the deer are pretty, the hunting pressure is pretty low. So they act they act more like what you'd think a deer would do. Mm-hmm. So it is still a little, in my opinion, it really is just easier to see more big bucks in daylight in moving longer distances. But if you find the right piece of public or private land, it could be just almost it can be almost funny, how daylight active bucks can be. I'm talking big mature bucks, chasing does in fields for multiple hours before dark, type of stuff. So,
are those places already leased? You know what I mean? The good places.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're as easy as I've told you guys a lot. The population of people hunting and the population of people in general is just low enough that and there's just so much deer habitat and so much deer habitat that is isolated from roads and people in general that you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you found the right piece, I do think it could be that you'd be that surprised. Like I know of guys talking about like I know of properties that I've walked on private land that the deer are literally bedding in the open fields because they don't ever get pressured. Like no joke, like that stuff really happens on private land in Iowa. Now some people are going to be mad at me for saying that and maybe giving away the maybe making credibility go away, but like that's no joke. Like literally bumping deer out of open field, like on ridge tops, because you know the strategy of them bedding there is pretty straightforward. Like, yeah, for the most part, people don't bump me, and when they do bump me, they just walk across this field so I spot them before they get to me. You know, why bed out in the timber where I can't see the pressure coming? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
you know, I
for
think
sure.
That's why they do it. And like, there's just that. There, you know, on some properties, there's just that little pressure. And, you know, I hate to say that to you, and then, you know, like, I hate to say that, you know, it's easier to get permission and everything, and you go 0 for 10 on it, knocking on doors, but like,
he makes me knock on all the doors anyway. So.
Dude, that's the thing. Like, I've gotten to the point. So when I moved back from Dallas out here to East Texas where we live, I spent like 2 years asking for properties, and not so much knocking on doors as like doing some real good internet creeping and finding phone numbers and using, this was before OnX or whatever, like using tax, CAD websites and that kind of thing, and like finding all these people and Facebooking them and all these different things and like making contact that way. And I knocked on some doors and stuff too. And I literally did that like several hours a week for 2 years and got 0 permissions out here where we live now. It's just a different culture, you know. For one, I mean, everybody hunts here.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they didn't hunt, their nephew's hunting it. And so, like, I couldn't find any. And that's why I hunt public now. But I look at, you know, that like 0 for 10 would be still okay around here. You know what I mean? That would be just fine, like expected, I guess.
Yeah. And it's a lot. I mean, it's like that around where I grew up in Ohio. You know, you're talking smaller land blocks. You're talking, you know, a lot more roads, a lot more houses. I mean, just simply, again, like I'll never, like, let's put it this way. In my opinion, the biggest differences in hunting, you know, within hunters in general is just simply like the overall population of the state that they're hunting in, right? So like, you know, your guys in Iowa and Kansas that are, you know, residents of those states, their hunting experience is like so much different than somebody in like maybe in your area of Texas or like my area of Ohio. Hunting is so much different. Like that's the part that a lot of people that don't get the ability to travel, they don't see, whether they're on one side of it or the other. I mean, it's why people that, you know, you watch a TV show. Like I remember growing up and like watching TV shows and being like, man, these guys are just great hunters. They're all over big bucks. But I didn't realize that they were living in southern Iowa where the deer bed in the open field, you know, on their 1,000 acres of land. Like I just didn't know that stuff existed. And it's like, I literally just didn't know that existed. I didn't know that they're like, when the first day I ever hunted turkeys on public land in Iowa, I almost lost my mind. I couldn't believe that there was a place in the world that there was that many gobbling turkeys in one piece of property. You know, and it's just something I think that when you've never got the chance to travel and see a whole bunch of different stuff, you'll never really realize how. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's a learning experience always, just to see the difference, and a lot of that boils down to simply human population.
For sure.
When you got a higher human population, you got less habitat that the animals can live on, and therefore you got less game.
Yeah.
And more people going after them.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned that if you found the right private piece, that it could be outrageous. And so what generally, and don't worry about going into too much detail, but just generally, what does that look like? What's the right piece?
I think the right piece, for the most part, like, is just gonna have a thick draw. Sometimes smaller is better, like where it doesn't have a ton of timber, and the reason is it's just there's not a lot of people looking at that. You know, sometimes a small draw that's got thick, you know, pretty thick vegetation in it, and then if you can add some CRP, into that, then you know, you're for sure gonna have a lot of deer. And you know, sometimes just the more open stuff, I would say, in Iowa is just more overlooked. So it's going to have just like a lot of good bedding habitat, because everywhere in Iowa there's destination food sources. Like you don't have to look far to find, you know, a cornfield that deer are feeding in. What you got to look for is the places that have the best bedding areas. And like if you can find stuff that has good CRP, good thick brushy draws, stuff like that are, you know, kind of overlooked little pieces. Sometimes it really could just be a 40 or an 80 in southern Iowa that's got the biggest buck on it, and you know, a small island of trees in the middle of a CRP field. You know, it's just stuff like that. Just like kind of like probably what you guys see in Kansas. You know, when you guys are hunting those big open areas, it's like sometimes the big bucks are out in the strangest places where nobody's hunting. You know, most of the time. You know.
Yeah. That's cool, dude. Well, appreciate all the info, man, and it's good just to chat with you again, man. It's been a while. I know you guys have been hard at it, so it's been since ATA, really, that we've had a chance to talk for a little bit. So, anyway, I appreciate you doing this, man, and just like just giving your whole philosophy. I think it's good for our listeners to hear that for sure, and it matches up well with the way we think about things. And for those listeners that are interested in just finding out more about Zach Ferenbaugh, what's the best place to send them, man?
We got the most content, I'd say, hands down on our. It's just hunting public. We got deer, turkey, hunting videos, mostly public land, some private land stuff sprinkled in from our friends and stuff like that. And then the hunting public on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a podcast that is on Podbean, iTunes, Switcher. We do live podcasts on Facebook where we do question and answers, stuff like that. So we got a lot of different, pretty much just are trying to crank out content one way or another on multiple platforms, you know, every hour of the day. So
yeah, you guys are a monster when it comes to that, man. I don't see how you do it. You must drink a lot of coffee, which I know you do, but the rest of them.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure, man. Good luck this summer out in Colorado, and hope you can catch some fish out there, too.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me. It's always a blast.
Sure thing, man.
All right, bro. Y'all be safe on the road.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, I'm stoked to hunt Iowa. I know that.
I bet you are.
And who knows, dude? I've said this like every year since the podcast has been going, and I haven't drawn it yet. But like, I think I draw this year.
Yeah, I think that if you don't, it's going to definitely be like worth a call. Like, hey guys, so just wondering, what's going on here?
Am I getting penalized?
And you know, it's crazy to think that you and I went and scouted Iowa like 3 years ago.
It's been a minute.
A little bit over 3 years ago, I think.
3? Sure, it's not 2.
It's been a while.
I think it's been.
Was it not 16?
2 springs, right?
I guess it was spring 17, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2.5 years.
It'll be 3 in March of next year.
That was March?
Yeah. So
Gosh, it was cold.
Like early March.
Man.
We were trying to get that shed rally going on, I think.
Were we?
Yep.
We did not do that.
No, we didn't.
Public sheds aren't a thing. There's big public deer, it's just not big public sheds.
No,
apparently
they get picked, I guess.
Yeah, but anyways, that's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Zach's put down a couple big deer up there.
Yeah,
and it seems like, I think that managing your expectations for that hunt's probably a good thing, but I think you're where you need to be. Like, just in our conversation, I think you know exactly what you're going up there for.
Yeah, dude. It's one of them things, like, I'm not going up there to shoot a 160, but if it happens, it happens, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I'm definitely, like, I'm not looking for anything much smaller either. Like, I mean, you know, it's anything that strikes my fancy, like we talked about. But, like, ultimately, I just paid, like you said, nearly $700 plus, like, however many for points over the last 6 years, 5 years or whatever. I like, that's a tag that warrants holding out a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I'm going to do is focus, hold out, try to go a couple of times if I need that during prime time, and make something special happen, man. And that's why I've been putting in for tag. It's the same thing with the Gila hunt, man. Like, if you wanted to just draw a tag and go kill an elk, like, you wouldn't have put in for the Gila, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing right there, man, is that you're gonna go up there and you're gonna have a different mentality than you do here on Texas Public. And it's like what Zach was talking about. And it's just funny how some people are like, it's kind of a joke, really. People are like, I've killed 38 Pope and young deer. It's like, really? So you're walking around out in the woods saying if it ain't a Pope and young deer, you're not going to shoot it, right? Like, that's just, man, you just got to have a good idea of what's going to make you happy. And I guess if that makes you happy and numbers are a thing for you, then that's fine. It's just don't expect everyone to be that way.
Right. Yeah, and you should have been an accountant instead.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they are accountants, and that's why they have plenty of money to go on trips.
Yeah, no, it's probably right, man. It's probably right. So I'm excited about that, man. But we still got a while, man. And luckily, Zach was on the road when we were talking to him, and he was talking about I think off the air. He was like, it's just good to like kind of pass the time to be able to talk to you guys on the road, And I think what's good about this summer and this trip that I'm taking is going to help me pass the time to get to that to deer season,
For real, you're going to pass a lot of time.
Yeah.
How many weeks is it?
We leave in 12 days, and we're going to be gone for a month.
Golly.
Basically 4 weeks,
That's a lot.
So
that is a lot. So what day do you get back?
I think we're going to get back 12th or 13th. I'm supposed to play a show on the 13th. I play a show on the 6th I have to fly back for, which is fun, but we budgeted that into the show monies.
Yeah. So after you leave, we have one more podcast and one more standard podcast, because there will be a backcountry in there. But so if this releases that week, I guess this whole conversation doesn't make a lot of sense depending on when this releases.
Yeah.
But the top, like, for our live purposes right now, we have one more podcast until we don't do something together for 5 months. Or 5 weeks.
Months would be weird. Yeah, no, dude. Crazy. And luckily, we have done several interviews in the last couple weeks with a bunch of the backcountry experts, like we talked about in the beginning of this thing. So
one of those
stoked.
That Zach even mentioned in this podcast.
Yeah,
the Border Rays guys.
The bro crew.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, hopefully going to release that one pretty quick, actually. I was talking about doing that one first, maybe. So
yeah.
Anyway, as far as YouTube videos go and stuff, we are looking at a pretty interesting video that you took in February? January? Something like that?
I don't know. Yeah, sometime. It might have been early March. I don't know. Sometime it was after deer season. I was going in to do the last trail camera pull on some Texas Public, and wouldn't you know, I didn't bring a gun or a bow, and there was hogs galore everywhere. And we were talking about with Zach off air too, like, it's not like we get super fired up about hog hunting anymore, but when they're there, I want to shoot them.
Yeah.
And I did not have anything to shoot them with. And I stalked within like 10 yards of one, and finally ended up catching one by hand.
So, and videoed it by yourself with your cell phone. And anyway, I've been putting that together. So hopefully here in the next week or so, you'll be able to see that video on YouTube. Casey just being a wild man out there on public, catching, I don't know, there may not have ever been somebody document a pig being caught by hand on public land.
I hope it's legal.
Me too, because you're going to be looking at probably like enough money in a ticket to pay for a pack for the Gila hunt.
Listen here, they better not give me a ticket, that's all I can say. If they do, we're going to need y'all to protest. So
that's right, yeah.
Element Faithful,
call
ready
troops.
yourself.
That's right. What else, man? Anything else happening soon?
That's about it. Just I'm probably going to fish a lot, especially when you're gone. I'm going to catch a bunch of big fish without you.
Are you going to do any catfishing or anything? Or are you talking about like going trout fishing in Denver? Or not Denver, Colorado?
I'm going to do that, but I think I might try to do some meat hauls.
Yeah.
Some more meat hauls. And
cool.
I don't know, I kind of got the bass itch too, to tell you the truth of the matter, just because we were on the lake the other day. A little teaser. Tyler and I set a trot line and caught some cats on that. But with that comes some obtaining of bait, and we spent a lot of time catching brim,
which was fun.
Bluegills. I don't think we ever broke the species barrier on that day.
Not
Bluegills
that
all day long.
It was crazy.
It was a lot of fun. The water was super clear, and we saw bass cruising around, and now I'm ready to go catch some bass real bad.
Are you?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, real bad.
Well, there's probably some topwater evening bass to be caught, I think, on the lake, man.
The lily pads are starting to come up.
Are they?
And I love pad fishing, man.
Frogs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Scum frogs. It's not a great fly thing, so might bust out. I haven't thrown a conventional rod in probably over a year.
Really?
Yeah, so might be kind of fun.
Threw one the other day.
Yeah.
Caught a bunch of bass.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. It's still fun. Don't worry. You'll like it.
I bet it is. I bet it is.
Well, cool, man. So I guess I hope you guys are enjoying this thing. If you like the Backcountry podcast, like I said, feel free to send us a message and let us know, hey, that's something I really am getting good info out of, and feel free to do as many of those as y'all want in the future. And so that'll let us know that that's something that's giving value to you guys. Because
and
we don't just necessarily do these. I mean, this has been one that this is a series that's helped us for sure. But like, we didn't have to record them, I guess.
That's right.
We want y'all to find some value and get helped from that as well. So anyway.
Yeah, pretty much the podcast is just a good way for us to like learn stuff from people, and we happen to record them. So that's good.
You heard me asking Iowa stuff to Zach earlier.
And speaking of Zach, a while ago, he was in and out of service a lot throughout the thing. You probably won't catch a ton of that because we'll do some editing. But one time he did say go check out the Hunting Public YouTube channel, and I believe he lost service when he said YouTube. So be sure and check that out. We'll link to all that stuff below in the notes. And also probably go check out our YouTube channel because it's cool too.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some sweet fishing videos coming up pretty soon.
I'm ready.
Hopefully some sweet hunting videos coming up.
Yeah. Hopefully. I think we're going to start the season out on a good foot.
Ooh.
If nothing else, we're going to have some cool video of some big elk, I think.
That's right. And some cool country
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Might even get some good video of some big elk this summer too.
Ooh. Are you going? For sure.
So here's the thing. The other day, Cassie was like, well, if we go through there on our vacation, does that mean you won't have to go back in August? So I don't know when I'm going for sure. I honestly love my wife, but I'd rather go without her than if I only have one of the other options. But I think I'll have both options.
Why is that? Because you want to like get up in there and
if I go without her, then I'll probably backpack in and do a loop, and get to know the country some. And that's kind of the main goal of going on the trip is like it's not like going to Iowa or even Iowa isn't a good example. It's not like if you went to Michigan, right, to go scout out and see if there's big bucks in this place. We already know that there's big elk in the Gila. You don't need like confirmation of that. So really it's more about like learning trailheads, learning access points, learning where there's water, where's a good place to camp. Hey, that rock face right there is huge. I probably don't need to try to go up that to chase an elk. This is the better route. That's the kind of scouting that I want to get done this summer. And my wife is not as keen on the backcountry stuff as I am. So
yeah. Most women aren't, but luckily there have been a few that have been on our podcast that were like the best, straight up with y'all, the best interviews that we've probably done.
That's right. The chicks held it down for the backcountry series. They're legit, man.
Yeah. So anyway, hope you guys are looking forward to that. And anyway, it's time for me to get out and go do something today. So I hope you guys are doing the same. Remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.